Good morning and good evening to everyone else. How you guys doing? Nick Bell here, your trusted Line 6 specialist. So today, guys, with the recent release, not so recent, but with the pretty recent release of the firmware for PodGo 1.30, I thought there were some pretty cool additions here, especially, for us Helix users. These, are items we've been living with for a while, and we're pretty used to these, but I was really happy to see that these crossed over into PodGo. And so if you've been following the streams, you've noticed that, we've covered the new effects, new amps, and things such as that. But I thought it'd be pretty cool to, take a look at these new features in 1.30. We'll start off taking a look at user model defaults, take a look at customizable Stomp and Snapshot switches, and then also the new Footswitch function for Footswitches 7 and 8. I think it really adds a lot more controllability to PodGo, and I love PodGo so much. It has everything I need in one small package. But there was a couple things us Helix users really love that Pod hasn't had for a while. So this kind of adds that, into PodGo here. So even though I'm going to be talking about, user model defaults and, in other global settings, settings and global settings, anything you have, any questions you have, any concerns you have, anything like that, bring them up. We like to treat this as like a workshop. So if there's anything I'm not going over today and you have a question on it, please let us know. So taking a quick look, looks like we have some people rolling in. We got Tony Campanovo. What's up, brother? Good to see you. And then from Chandler, Arizona. All right, man. Love your PodGo. Great to hear. Thank you so much for joining us today. So like I said, we're going to be covering, just the new features in PodGo. But again, please let me know if you have any other questions or, anything else you want to talk about. Like I've said in the past, these are kind of like our placeholders. And so this is what we'll be talking about. But we love any questions we have. And again, we have John Cordy. Pleasure to have you, man. Thank you for joining. But we have some Line 6ers, including product specialist Tony Campanovo. So if you have any questions, they'll be able to dive right in and let you know what's up. So I thought it would be cool to kind of show these features on PodGo, and then of course, doing anything on the editor. It's pretty quick, pretty simple, but hey, if you're at the gig, if you're at the rehearsal space, you don't have a computer with you. So I think it's always good to know how to do these steps both on the editor and on the actual physical product. So let's take a quick look at my camera here. Wrong one. So if my levels are off or anything like that, let me know. So like I said, guys, we're going to be covering these features and such. I don't have any cool tones or any cool playing for you today. I'll leave that to Tony Campanovo and Ross Bailey, who will be joining us next week. So let's start off with kind of the most simple bullet point out of what we're going to be taking a look at today, and that being user model defaults. So let's take a look here. So pretty much user model defaults, you could probably get what that is just in the name. And so looking at this preset here, it's the US Deluxe Normal, but of course using the upper knob or the lower knob, we can change the model to whatever we want. Now for myself, a model that is one of my favorites would be the Brit Plexi Bright. So let's see if we have enough room here. Nope, let's just move over to something with less DSP. So let's take a look here. And so I'm going to go over to the Brit Plexi Bright. So with this amp model, and it could be an amp, a cab, an effect, anything, any model available in the model list, you'll be able to save as a user model default. Now, the Brit Plexi Bright is an amp I use all the time. It's one of my favorites. And so, granted, depending on the song or the tone you're going after, of course your EQ stack is always going to move around depending on the guitar you're using, the room, and so on and so forth. So, of course, these parameters are going to shift depending on the tone that I'm doing. But there's several parameters that are usually always the same for me, and that's definitely the drive. I like to have the drive kind of high on the amp, maybe about 8.5, and then I'll just push it with like a Minotaur or an LA2A studio comp. And me, I love a lot of low end, not crazy about too much mids. treble and and presence and so on. And again, like I said, these are going to shift and move around depending on the tone you're building. But parameters that I will always have the same no matter what, especially for this amp, are the field controls. And if you've been following our streams, we've covered these field controls and how you can just really get the most out of each amp model by dialing these in. So for myself, I like to increase the sag a little bit, gives the amp a looser response. Hum, I always keep where it's at. Ripple, the characteristic of the output transformer when you're pushing the amp hard, I like to crank this up. So I'm going to move that about 8 to 9 depending on the tone that I'm working with. We're going to page over to the final page of settings of our amp model, and now the bias, I'll keep that where it is. If I want the amp to be a little colder and not as hot, obviously I could turn that down. And if I want this Marshall to sound a little more like a Vox, a little more of that Class A, chimey, slappy sound, I could turn the bias up as well, but I don't want to do that. But one thing I do want to adjust is the bias excursion. Now, if you haven't followed those streams of ours, you'll know that, I'll just let you know that the bias excursion here, it's kind of like, bias and sag mixed together. Pretty much, just to remember for, just in layman's, if you want the low end of your tone to be nice and tight, then like myself, I would suggest cranking down the bias X pretty low. Now, if you're doing the Eagles and you're looking for, a really loose kind of tweedy, just, saturated vintage 70s kind of a sound, then crank the bias X up and you're going to get a looser, kind of a flubbier type of a sound. Again, it depends on what your tone is made out of and what you're plugging into it. So move these around. So what we have here is these settings that I always make to this amp model. So when I'm building tones, before we had user model defaults, I was doing the same steps over and over. So what I can do now is I could press action and then I can save that as a user default. So we see my drive is at 8.5, bass is at about 8, and so on and so forth. And then we see what I did to the bias excursion and the other field controls. So if I use the lower knob and change to a different amp and so on and so forth, and maybe I'll back up and go back, we'll see my settings are now there. So anytime I'm building a preset, whether I'm using an amp or an effect, whatever that may be, that's what the user defaults are going to do for you. They're going to, save you a couple seconds, if not a minute, of, dialing these sounds. Now, what's great about HX modeling here in PodGo, if you're dialing an amp, or even in this case, saved an amp to user model defaults, and let's say you just want to go back to the drawing board on how this model, was out of the box, so to speak, what's great, just push the encoder. When you push the knobs down, it will go right back to the factory default. And so if you ever want to, just kind of start over, you can do that as well. And let's say, a couple months, maybe years go down, a year or so down the road, you go, you know what, my whole taste with this amp has changed. I could always hit action again, and then I could save it as the factory default. And so that's user model defaults. Again, you could use it on anything in the model list. And like I said, it kind of helps, you build tones a bit faster, especially if you're using the same amps and effects. So pretty cool stuff there. So taking a look, that finishes our user model defaults. Let's take a look at customizable Stomp and Snapshot switches. So real quick, if you're, let's say you want to, let's come up with a situation here. Maybe when I push one foot switch, I want the foot switch to engage my delay, my reverb, and maybe turn on my effects loop simultaneously. Maybe I have, something really cool, some external gear outside of PodGo, but when I press one foot switch, I want many things to happen. And, when you're building tones, is it, should I use a snapshot? Should I make a whole new preset? Should I assign everything to a single foot switch? It's really up to you. Just because snapshots exist doesn't mean you have to use them, because you can assign up to 64 parameters changes, or 64 changes altogether, to a single foot switch. So if I need to turn 3 things on and have a level or 2 move around, I don't necessarily need to assign that to a snapshot. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, let's say bypass my delay, turn on the reverb, and turn on the effects loop. So taking a look, we'll go over to our performance mode, and we could see that the effects loop is assigned to this foot switch. The delay is assigned to, foot switch, number 6 here. And then the final room reverb is assigned to this foot switch. So what I can do is I can literally, let's say we want to assign everything to this foot switch. I'll select delay, then I'm just going to push and hold that foot switch. It'll ask me for the assignment, and so now the single foot switch turns those 2 blocks on. And then finally, I said I wanted to assign the effects loop as well. So I'll just press and hold that foot switch, ask for the assignment, and so now we can see all 3 items are turning on and off. So when I go over to the view screen, into performance view, we can see that this foot switch reads multiple 3. Now, if you wanted that a different color or to have a different name to it, it could greatly help you in a live situation. If maybe we just want a bunch of reverb and ambiance for this kind of a setting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to view, and as long as I select any of the blocks assigned to this foot switch, I'll be able to make that assignment. So what we do here is we press page left and right, just how we would to do normal bypass or control assignment, and then we press bypass and control. So in this situation, we don't have anything under the screen, so what you want to do is press action. And once you press action, you have the ability to clear the selected assignment, clear all assignments to this foot switch, or to customize it. So let's choose knob 3, customize. So now that we see it reads multiple 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use knob 2, and I'm just going to delete this. And like I said, this is for, let's say an ambiance, kind of lots of delay, reverb, and maybe I have something really interesting as my external piece of gear. So let's give this a cool name. I'm just going to name it Lush. So what I can do is use the lower knob, or use the, I'm so used to Helix, right? Use knob 4, and so what I can do here is just find L for Lush, and then go right over, and then just find a lowercase letter by selecting or pushing down on knob 4, and so let's go to U, and so here we are. I'm just, going to name this Lush real quick, and then, where's our H? Hey, where am I going? There we are. And so now I'll press OK. So before I press OK though, let's change the LED color. Now whenever I do stuff like this, I like to choose a ring color that doesn't coincide with anything else in Helix really. So I'll choose either something like turquoise. Blue is normally modulation, so I'll stick to something like turquoise, violet, or even pink. Like I said, violet is the selected color for synths and pitch shift. So I like to choose anything between turquoise and pink. But if we start getting more and more of these individual assignments, then I'll get a little more creative. So I'll press OK, and then now in the performance view, we see that Lush in pink is now assigned to those 3 stomp boxes. And keep in mind, whenever you have, multiple assignments to a foot switch, and maybe you go, maybe I don't want that delay to be on at the same time. Maybe I want the opposite to happen. So what I can do is I can bypass that delay, and then now when I use this foot switch, the reverb and the effects loop turns off while the delay turns on. And so it's really all these are doing is just putting those blocks in a bypass state. So depending at whatever state they're on when the foot switch is on and vice versa, you get the idea. You can move some stuff around. So that's what we have with renaming each individual foot switch. And so pretty simple, right? And honestly, just by a glance, I'll know exactly what that is in a live setting. So I'm going to transition and turn over to the computer here, take a look at any comments we have. Let's see here. We got a lot of people in today. It looks like, hey everyone, latest Podgo update is great. Thank you so much, Matt. Much appreciated on that. I really like it myself. So good explanation. Thanks, Orlando. And then Ross, evening buddy. Sorry I'm late. No worries, man. Thank you for joining. And then, all right. So cool. We're moving along here. Not too bad. So taking a look at what else to cover, we have snapshots foot switches, the customizable snapshot foot switches. Because, the beauty about snapshots is that, maybe you have a verse, maybe you have a chorus, maybe you have a solo lead or whatever that may be. when it came to Pod Go, sometimes you had to remember, you know, what was Snapshot 3? What was Snapshot 4 again? You know, and you would probably just have to press it and figure it out. So taking a look here, what state of mind am I in right now? So it looks like we're in preset up and down. So if I press both simultaneously, we have our snapshots. And so to rename our snapshots here, let's go, let's take a look. Let's go to, I kind of want to take a look at, let's see. All right, we're all good there. All right, so taking a quick look, we'll move right over to, I want to show you on, whatchamacallit, on the edit real fast. So when we were doing this on the edit, it's really quick, it's really simple. Now, we just showed how you can adjust the names of individual foot switches on the actual Pod Go. And how we do that is, if you're on the edit, because I wanted to show you the edit and you know, doing it on the actual Pod Go in real time. So taking a look, if we were to open the window, show bypass control, this is how you can update or actually rename these foot switches straight from your editor. So if we click the, you know, kind of the 3 dots in the circle, we could literally go here and change the foot switch color. We set it to pink earlier, but I can now change it to turquoise, and we see that change right there. And then if I wanted to rename that snapshot, I can do so. And so taking a look real quick here, let's see what I got for you. And so that's right. All right, so let's take a quick look at Pod Go and renaming these snapshots. So in a situation like this, let's say I have snapshot 1, snapshot 2, snapshot 3, and 4. What I would like to do is, let's say snapshot 1, these guys are all turned off. And then in snapshot 2, let's say only the overdrive is turned on. And then in snapshot 3, let's say most of everything is on. And then in snapshot 4, let's say everything is on. Now, of course, this isn't a real world situation, but it kind of shows you, you know, how to adjust these. So now snapshot 1, nothing on. Snapshot 2, only the overdrive is on. Snapshot 3, most of everything is on. And then snapshot 4, everything is on. And of course, I'm just showing this example with bypass control, but of course you could assign any parameter shifts to a snapshot as well. So to rename a snapshot, you could just select snapshot 1 and then actually press on knob 1, or the upper knob, to go to the preset list. And the same goes for Helix as well. This is the exact same spot you want to go to when you're renaming a snapshot. So we go to the preset list and click rename snapshot, and just how we did before, we can name this whatever we want. So I'm going to go down and I'm just going to name this, you know, let's just say, you know, intro. And I'm going to be kind of quick with it so we don't waste too much time in, you know, renaming a bunch of snapshots. And so, or here I'll make it nice and in caps, if you will. And so intro, and let's say we want that to be green. I'll press OK. Go to view here. And so now snapshot 1, I meant to write intro, but we'll just go with into right now. So snapshot 1 is intro, and I made that green. We could go to snapshot 2 and repeat the same steps, and you kind of get the idea here. I could just go on through and just start naming everything I want. You know, we could go through and you know, name this chorus, and again, capitalize or lowercase, and that could go to the O and so on and so forth. And we'll just give this one last name because I don't want to spend too much time on this chorus, and let's just get an S there. And then you notice if you press it a third time, you have numbers and interesting characters. So we'll just go to S right there, and let's change this color to, you know, hey, let's do violet. All right, so now when you're in snapshot mode, you'll notice we have these different colors. So right at a glance, of course, it's kind of hard to see on camera, you know, but you can see that this green is dimly lit, and you know, when the green is lit, the violet is dimly lit as well as the other snapshots. So in a rehearsal and live setting, at a quick glance, you can tell just by your foot switches what snapshot you're in and what snapshot you're going for. And many users will stick to the same color codes for their intros, their choruses, their transitions, whatever it may be. Just how we have color codes for delay, reverb, and amp model, everything. You could kind of have that for your snapshots as well. So let's take a quick glance over at the stream here, see if we have any questions and such. Beautiful, beautiful, looking good. All right, guys. So my favorite part with the update would be the Footswitch 7.8 function in global settings. And it really, really gives a lot more control, having these settings. So let's take a quick look at what we're working with here. So I'm just going to, let's see here, I'm just going to select a new preset. Let's check out this Brit Plexi Bright. So currently, right out of the box, how Podgo is, you can go right in the back, and I know we're a little out of focus, but you could use a TRS cable and plug right into Expression Pedal 2, and you could either use an Expression Pedal or 2 additional foot switches. So right out of the box, if I plug into this output, and I grab, Expression Pedal, what I essentially can do is have my wah-wah on Podgo and then my volume on my Expression Pedal. Because currently, how this works out, I'm just going to choose something that has the wah-wah and the volume next to each other. So currently, you have your volume, and then if you want to engage the wah, you just push down and hit the toe switch, and then you'll notice the volume is no longer being controlled, but the wah-wah is. And so you have that action, right? So in this case, if I were to just grab this cable and plug it into the Expression Pedal, you'll notice that the LED jumps from Expression Pedal 2 to Expression Pedal 1. I'm sure that green's a little hard to see on camera, but you'll notice that red as soon as I plug in. So now what happens is the Expression Pedal that I just connected, the external Expression Pedal, automatically will start controlling volume. I didn't have to do any settings or adjust anything. It just automatically switched. And then when I want to use my wah-wah, all I have to do is engage it by pressing the toe switch. And then now I can move that around. And so that's standard operation. That's how it's been since the release of Podgo. But now we have some more some more options that I think are pretty fascinating. So I'm just going to disconnect this Expression Pedal, and now everything goes back to normal, and we see that on the screen. So I'm going to get rid of this, and then I'm going to actually use something else from Mission. This being the Mission TT2. This is an awesome, an awesome foot switch. Obviously, no one here is really endorsed to sell these or anything, but I gotta give credit where credit is due. What's cool about this guy is you can actually have a single 1/4-inch cable go out of each input to whatever modeler you're using, or you open up the back of this, flip a switch, and then just plug in a TRS cable, and then you can have both foot switches controlled through one connection, like so. And there we are. So I'm gonna keep this guy here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into settings by pressing page left and right. We will click global settings, and normally when you pull up global settings, you'll be on the first page. So we're going to use the upper knob and scroll over to switches and pedals. We're going to page right, and currently the Expression 2 Expression 2 and Footswitch 7.8 setting is assigned to Expression 2. So I'm going to move this over to Footswitch 7 and 8. And then you have a new option that pops up, and that's the function for Footswitches 7 and 8. So do you want this to be just 2 additional foot switches, being 7 and 8, and I could assign different effects, just how we would on Podgo, to these foot switches, or I can make them bank up and down, preset up and down, or snapshot up and down. So what's really cool about this is that I could actually, be in a situation where I don't have to do as much tap dancing. Not that there's a whole lot to begin with, but check this out. So currently, if I'm in preset 1D, I could hit bank up, and then now all my presets in bank 1 show up, and now I could press 1C. Sounds good. Maybe I want a different preset, maybe in D, so on and so forth. Now I could just go, all right, now I need bank 2, bank 3, or maybe go down to bank 2, bank 1, so on and so forth, right? So you get the idea. So what's cool about this is now I don't have to really, go over to the bank buttons and stuff like that, but you may be looking and go, oh, you know what, that's not a big difference compared to what I have already. So what I love about this setting is that if we go back and then change this to preset up and down, well, what's cool about this is I never have to leave stomp mode. So I'm currently in preset 3C. Now I could be in preset 3D, 4A, and so on and so forth, or I could go down. So as you see, I never have to hit the stomp mode, because otherwise I'd have to hit, I'd have to hit preset mode, then another foot switch, and then so on and so forth. As you can see here, I'd have to go out of stomp mode, select that, then hit mode again. Now I'm looking at my, at my stomp boxes. I could hit the mode switch. Then I, have to, manually select these on my own. Otherwise, I can just have this foot switch doing it for me, and we're good to go. Another thing is assigning snapshots. So if I wanted to set up some snapshots real quick, what I can do is first go back to global settings, and then I'm just going to assign the foot switch function to be snapshot up and down. And then we'll go back in, let's say in snapshot 1, only the red squeeze is going. Snapshot 2, the red squeeze and simple EQ. Snapshot 3, and we could see, that the number 3 in the camera icon is right there, so we're in snapshot 3. And then the final snapshot, number 4, everything is on. And so now, as you can see, I can be in any mode, stomp box mode or even preset mode, and I never have to hit the mode switch, and I'm just changing my snapshots as we see here. And so this is something I think is really cool. I was really excited when, when these settings came out, because so many of us have been used to Helix, and then PodGo came out, and PodGo is amazing because it's so small and has, everything I need in one box. But there were these tiny little things that Helix still had that PodGo didn't, and I feel that we're even closer to an amazing product like Helix. Out of PodGo, what Pod has turned into has been amazing. So taking a quick look at what we have here in the comments, like I said, guys, nothing too crazy today. Not much of a veil to lift. I just thought it would be cool to kind of talk about these new features that came to PodGo, and just kind of reiterate, how powerful, this little unit is. And if you're a Helix owner, and or maybe you've never owned one of these products and you're curious about them, it's the bar has been raised with PodGo with this new update. So that's what we got, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before I leave you, again, just letting you know, we're calling these virtual lessons. You see Skype on the screen, but hey, we may use Skype, we may use Zooms, or whatever, medium you prefer. But check out line6.com/events. Not only are we doing cool stuff out there in the world, but, with the current state of events today with the pandemic and all, we've resorted to these one-on-one free lessons. So if you're looking to get some one-on-one time with myself, Ross Bailey, or even, the fantastic Tony Campanovo, check out this link. Go to our website /events, and you'll get some one-on-one time with us, and whatever you want to go over, we'll be more than happy to do it. And again, it's free, and so, you can't beat that price. So guys, thank you so much for joining me today. That was PodGo new features with 1.30. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions after the video, this will live on our Facebook. Just comment on in, and Tony, myself, Ross, or any other Line Sixers will get right to you. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to leave this link on the screen for a little bit. Feel free to sign up, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you guys so much.